What do you think, looking back on that season, so last season, was one of the biggest misconceptions of the Indiana Fever? Like, maybe it was like locker room stuff. I feel like early on,
oh my
like,
gosh, there was so much locker room talk. Oh my gosh, her body language, she was not happy. She hates this entire squad.
Looking back at last season, one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding the Indiana Fever wasn't even about basketball itself, but about supposed locker room drama. People online and in the media constantly speculated about tension, body language, and unhappiness, spinning narratives that never actually matched reality.
People in the Fever were like, y'all.
That's not my point. There's a lot of other shit going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit going on around there.
It's a lot. Yeah. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Fans dissected every glance, every timeout huddle, and even a player's posture on the bench, as if they were FBI agents analyzing crime footage. One of the biggest targets of these assumptions was Aliyah Boston. At times,
that year, I was like, I forgot, we were like doing something. We had something. I was like, hey, I just want to say, I'm like really upset that you like did what you did in that Final Four game. I was like, I feel like I just need to get it off my chest because like we are teammates, but I'm like, you didn't have to do all that. Like you did not have to go for 40 on our dome. Like, girl, we could have just had fun. But after that, it was like cool because obviously now we're on the same team, so you don't worry about that. But I always thought it was funny because I'm like, we just went from competing against each other, you beating us, and now we're on the same team. It's like, I was like, girl, it's okay, I get it. I'm not mad at you for real, but I am. Because like, why would you do that?
The chatter was overwhelming. Claims that she wasn't happy, that she didn't vibe with her teammates, or that she even hated the squad. But as Aliyah reveals in her candid interview on Sue Bird's Bird's Eye View podcast, the truth couldn't be further from the rumors. What she shares in this conversation doesn't just clear the air.
Then you added in Caitlyn, right? And everybody's like, oh, like they're gonna be this, and this. And now everybody's like, oh, you know what? We're gonna prove you wrong. Like, hell no. Like, that's how it is. And then this year too, obviously we go in the free agency and everybody's like, yeah, like they got, for us, we always think like you have to approach every season with like, we're winning this whole season. So that was our mindset. And I think when you look at expectations, once again, expectations come from everyone outside. Cause like in our circle, we know exactly what we want to do. We also understand that it's a process. We understand that new faces, new coaches, like different style play for people joining us. It's like people need time to figure it out once again. But when you do figure it out, it's going to be scary.
It brings a refreshing, hilarious, and real perspective on her bond with Caitlin Clark and the Fever as a whole. Boston opens up about everything, from her initial reaction to Clark in college, to becoming teammates in Indiana, to surviving the intense media spotlight together. And
honestly, like when C is on the floor, I'm like, listen, be ready to run. Be ready to get out. Be ready because she's looking. She's looking. Going. She wants to play fast. Super early in the offense, and like we do that too as well here. But I think sometimes too now without her, like we can get into like a little more half court execution, make the defenses work a little bit harder, first side, second side, third side. And then I think when you have like Kelsey, when Kelsey's playing in transition, get that ball up to her and make her
I've never seen anybody so bouncy.
Like she is unbelievable.
And
then when
what
you
is in
put
those
her
shoes?
In screens, it's like, what do you do?
Bouncing all over.
She is moving, she's making the right read, and it's like, listen, and she's scoring the ball at a very high level. And
of course, she couldn't resist throwing in some juicy locker room details that fans had never heard before. When Caitlin Clark first arrived in Indiana, curiosity was at an all-time high. Many wondered how Boston and Clark would mesh, considering the two had faced off in one of the most unforgettable Final Four matchups in women's college basketball history.
She knows exactly what to say. She knows exactly how to say it, how to be in your ear and just continuously talking to you. And it's just like, it's perfect. I told her, I was like, listen, I hear you talking. Sometimes I'm like trying not to crash out internally, but I promise I'm hearing what you're saying. Like I really am. And I think just having those vets that know how to win, but also know how to like tell you like, you're good. It's a process. The journey. Not every game is going to be great, but keep shooting. And I feel like that's like how we've been with each other, is that mindset of like every shot you take, be confident in it.
Clark dropped 40 points on South Carolina, handing Boston and her team a crushing loss. That kind of memory isn't something that just disappears overnight. And Boston admits she had to address it head on once they became teammates. In the podcast, she recalls pulling Caitlyn aside and saying with a laugh, "I just need to get this off my chest. You didn't have to do all that in the Final Four. You didn't have to go for 40 on us. Girl, we could have just had fun." What might have been a source of tension turned into a hilarious bonding moment. Instead of bitterness, Aliyah showed her ability to move past competition and embrace collaboration. The respect between the two stars was instant, and it only grew stronger as the season unfolded. On the court, their chemistry blossomed quickly. In pick-and-roll situations, Boston knows Clark will either launch the shot if defenders go under, or deliver a perfectly timed pass if they step up. "Her passing angles are phenomenal," Boston said. "I just watch her eyes. Once I see her looking, I'm ready. She doesn't even have to say anything." That level of nonverbal communication doesn't happen overnight. It's a product of two high IQ players finding rhythm with each other. And as the season progressed, it became clear that Indiana had one of the most exciting duos in the WNBA. But with excitement came scrutiny. The so-called Caitlin Clark effect hit the Fever like a tidal wave. Suddenly, every practice, every possession, and every interaction was under the microscope. For Boston, the media frenzy was overwhelming at times. Strangers on social media dissected her body language as if it were evidence in a trial. Missed connections with Clark were exaggerated into stories of beef. The constant noise reached a breaking point for Aliyah, who already places immense pressure on herself. At one point, she decided the healthiest move was simply to log off. "If I'm already hard on myself," she explained, "I don't need trolls telling me I'm the worst post player they've ever seen. I'll just exit." Importantly, she never blamed Caitlyn for the attention. In fact, she praised Clark for bringing new fans and visibility to the league. "People might come in for Caitlyn," Boston said, "but then they leave saying, 'Dang, this girl's a hooper too.'" What Boston pushed back against wasn't Clark. It was the unrealistic expectation that two young stars would click instantly and flawlessly. Chemistry takes time, and the Fever were still finding their rhythm. Meanwhile, fans and critics online created entire soap operas out of thin air. Aliyah shared one story that perfectly summed up how far from reality the rumors really were. One day, she woke up from a nap before a game, only to see social media exploding with claims that she and Clark hated each other. She walked into the locker room, still half asleep, and asked, "Girl, you good?" That was the extent of their supposed drama. In truth, the Fever locker room was as united as ever. They laughed at the narratives outsiders tried to impose on them, knowing that the only story that mattered was the one they were writing on the court. Boston was firm in shutting down speculation. "We're professionals. If we wanted you to see something, you'd see it. If not, you'd never know, because it's none of your business." Heading into her third season, Aliyah Boston understood that the narrative around the Fever had changed. No longer the underdog, Indiana entered the year with new expectations. A coaching change, big free agency moves, and the addition of Caitlin Clark meant they were now viewed as contenders. That shift, from hunter to hunted, wasn't lost on Boston. "It's crazy, but it was expected," she said. With added expectations came added pressure. Every team circled Indiana on their calendar. Every opponent wanted to test them. But instead of shying away, Boston embraced it. She explained that inside the Fever locker room, the message was consistent. Control what you can, tune out what you can't, and trust the process. That process was tested early in the 2025 season when adversity struck hard. Injuries piled up, most notably to Caitlin Clark. Losing such a central figure mid-season could have derailed everything. The Fever's offense, so often fueled by Clark's passing and tempo, suddenly had to adapt. For Boston, the shift was significant. "When Caitlin's on the floor, you better be ready to run," she explained. "She wants to play fast, get the ball up early, push in transition. Without her, we slow it down, run more half-court sets, and make the defense work side to side." It wasn't better or worse, just different. And learning to thrive in both styles made Indiana a more versatile team. Still, Clark's absence was deeply felt emotionally. Watching a competitive teammate sidelined was tough, but it also fueled determination. Every game became about holding the line until Clark could return, ensuring the Fever would still be in position to make noise when she rejoined the lineup. Helping them weather the storm was the presence of veteran leaders: Natasha Howard, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, and especially Sydney Colson, played critical roles in keeping the team grounded. Boston spoke glowingly about Colson in particular. While fans often see her as the team's comedic spark, Aliyah revealed her other side. The steady voice, the motivator, the glue. She knows exactly what to say and how to say it, Boston said. Sometimes I'm trying not to crash out internally, but I hear her. She keeps me locked in. That kind of leadership can't be taught. It's felt. And it made all the difference as Indiana navigated a brutal stretch of injuries and adversity. Boston also noted how having more veterans changed the team dynamic. In her first 2 years, the roster was overwhelmingly young. Mistakes weighed heavily, and players often felt pressure to be perfect. But veterans reminded them that basketball is a process. Every game won't be flawless, but confidence and consistency matter more. That mindset shift proved invaluable. What could have been a lost season became a crash course in resilience. The Fever learned how to win ugly, how to adapt to different lineups, and how to trust one another under pressure. By the time the playoffs rolled around, they were battle-tested in ways that no training camp could replicate. Fast forward to the present. Indiana locked in a WNBA semifinal showdown against the defending champion Las Vegas Aces. On paper, the Fever shouldn't have stood a chance. 6 key players were dealing with injuries, and Vegas had the star power of Aja Wilson, Kelsey Plum, and Jackie Young. But instead of folding, Indiana leaned into the chaos. Boston, in the words of head coach Stephanie White, became the team's rock. She balanced fierce competitiveness with calm leadership, proving she could anchor not just the paint, but the entire team's mindset. As the series shifted back to Indiana, the Fever were battered but unbroken. Each game felt like a war, and every possession carried weight. Yet the Fever refused to see themselves as victims of circumstance. They embraced the challenge. They fought for more than just wins. They fought for respect, for validation, for a statement that this franchise was no longer rebuilding. They were here. Boston's performance stood as the embodiment of that mentality. Through the ups and downs of the season, she had leveled up, not only as a player, but as a leader who steadied her team in the storm. And alongside Caitlin Clark, who would soon return to the court, Boston symbolized the Fever's new identity: resilient, fearless, and united. The noise of last year, the rumors, the body language critiques, the imaginary beefs, was exposed as just that: noise. What truly defined the Fever was their response to adversity, their growth, and their refusal to break. Boston summed it up perfectly. Every season, our mindset is the same. We're here to win. Expectations from outside don't matter. Inside this circle, we know who we are and what we want to do. And when we figure it out completely, it's going to be scary. Pinesto. As Indiana continues its playoff push, one thing is certain: the league can no longer sleep on them. This isn't just a young team finding its way.